Okay, so the name of the talk is Lies About Non-Duality. Cool. If you want to ask a question, I'll just explain to you how that's done. You can ask a question by sending it through the Telegram group in the question part. You can send it anytime when I'm speaking. If you want to ask me a question, then live in person, then you have to write to Amelia, who's the admin of the group, and tell her what your question is. So, and then she will make it so I call you on Telegram and we can chat. Nice. That's clear. But I'll do an introduction now, and then the questions and answers will be maybe in half an hour. But you can write them anytime. I think there's some from last week still, and some people wrote some this morning. So lies about non-duality. Just let me make sure that it's titled. Lies about non-duality. I mean, there's so many myths about non-duality. I think lies is a little bit of extreme statement. But we can say lies, as that's what it is in the title. I think the biggest lie about non-duality that people have is that they are going to stop experiencing pain, so that they will become emotionally stable and no longer experience negative emotions, only positive emotions, and no longer have any negative conditioning or any karma. Yeah, I think that to me is the biggest lie about non-duality or awakening or liberation. I tend to steer away from those words now because they're so dramatic. Awakening I use a lot, but liberation and enlightenment. But I like awakening because it sounds less dramatic, and I kind of feel that you can have awakenings in lots of ways. And liberation sounds more finite, more like, da, 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 I'm liberated. Yeah, I'm awakened, I suppose you could say. But you can't really say I had liberating, I had liberation, I suppose. Yeah. So let's address this lie first of all. I mean, there's so many. This video could be all me talking for the next 2 hours of lies about non-duality. So the lie about all your karma going. So the biggest question about that is whose karma will go? So really, the mind is always piecing together everything. So it makes up this idea of somebody whose karma will go. Who is this somebody whose karma will go? Who and what is that? I know that most probably doesn't sound very profound. It's like getting into the snore factor. But it's so profound, it's so deep. if there is nobody experiencing life, always, then whose karma is going to go? So we've got imagination that there is a subject that has karma. Isn't that bizarre already? That there is a you that has karma. Who is this you and how does it sneak into the recesses of your mind? So there is a you with karma. What is that you? Oh, well, my name is Lisa and I have karma. But isn't so I suppose we need to define what I mean by karma. Karma to me is habits and conditions. You could also say cause and effect as well, but that makes it a little bit more complicated. So karma is behavior, action. So that's the cause and effect part. Um, what happens to this body, and habits and conditions can also be like illness, like the way the body responds to illness. And then the habits and the conditions would lead someone to a certain place to get certain illness. Like I have to see it all as one movement. It's like the movement. To me, it's the karma is movement, and karma is not a negative or a positive thing. Even though you could say some people have better karma than other people, but that's only relatively speaking. We don't know things from a bird eye's perspective. We just know them from a relative perspective. So you could say, somebody has better karma when it comes to health or money or relationships, but it's only relative in our human comparison measuring stick. But that's to me what karma is. So if we go back to the original premise, it's who is this person that has karma? And there is an imagination. I am Tom. I won't say myself. I am Tom, and I have good karma. I have lots of money. I have a strong body. So there is a Tom that has all these things. So he has a strong body. He has lots of money. But who is the Tom? So on another day, Tom could say, I am wealthy. So rather than just I am wealthy. The I am and the wealth become one thing. So it's really interesting the way we name things, but in the first instance, it's I am Tom with I am Tom, I have good karma, I have lots of money, I have big house. So all these things that he has. And who is this he? If he is the one that has that, you can't say who he is rich because he's someone that has that. So who is the one that's claiming to have wealth? I have a good job, I have children. So he has all of that. So who is the one that is claiming all of that? And most people that are listening to me know it's not the body, because also Tom in a certain sentence can say, I have a healthy body. So he again has a body. There's somebody that has something. So who who is that? And then Tom might think, well, I am the yibba yabba in the head. Yibba yabba, the chatterbox in the head. So I am the one that's telling the story of what's happening. But if you really pay attention and everything becomes still enough, you'll notice that actually there's something that's watching the storyteller. So that the one that's rabbiting away, saying, well, I have this, or she's wrong, or I like this, or I don't like this, or my karma is way better than that person's karma. There is something that's watching that. So who is the subject that's watching the Yigi Yaga? That's so cool. And then there becomes a point where you can't go back anymore. So the one that's watching the storyteller, and the storyteller is claiming all the karma, the one that's watching all of that, there's a point where you can't get any further back. So there is a noticing, which is weird. So there's a part of the mind which notices that something is watching all of this. And that's something that's watching all of this cannot be found. You can't go any further. And the one that's watching all of this is like a wormhole slide. It slides into an abyss. The watching is absolutely empty, empty of everything. So the answer to the most profound question of life is 42. It's a joke. For nerds. But the answer to life is, or the answer to this, or the answer to the question, who is claiming all of this, who has karma and who has conditions, is nothing. Nothing. You could say consciousness, but the consciousness, then when consciousness is really explored, it's absolutely empty. So your essence is already without karma. It's already without any karma or any habits or conditions. It's totally empty. Experiencing this, and it cannot really be found. There is a sense of it, but it can't really be found by something, because then it would be an object again. But there's a sense of it, and it becomes more and more clear, seemingly through time. But it's, in essence, always there. So that has nothing to do with the characteristics of the person's karma changing or disappearing. It's way beyond the characteristics and the karma and the habits of the body mind. It transcends that. It's like they're different conversations. So the lie is that you will no longer have habits and conditions. You, as a person, will become enlightened. But when you are enlightened, your habits and conditions will disappear. Your pain will disappear. Your negative emotions will disappear. But there is nobody there that could happen to. What you could say, so the truth in that is that your essence has no habits and conditions. Your essence is without conditions. And the waking up is coming back to who you truly are, which is karma-less. But the body mind, awakened or not awakened, will have habits and conditions and will have karma. That is an insanity that could disappear. How? You would disappear, this body would disappear into nothing if it didn't have conditions. Like if it didn't have a condition to have a skin, then all my blood would leak out. If it didn't have a condition to be able to speak English, then my words would come out as turkey. I didn't have the condition to discern between good behavior and bad behavior. I might be, just pooing in the middle of the road. What does it matter? There are no habits and conditions. But thankfully, I have habits and conditions. So there is a knowing that just banging one out like Khaleesi in front of everyone for the world to see will most probably end you up in the police station. Not a good idea. Not a good idea. I can't help it. Whenever I speak about going to the toilet in public, I just remember this story. I was in the French hills in the south of France, cycling on my bike with Khaleesi. And Khaleesi was younger. We used to go for long bike rides. And I was really far in the middle of nowhere. And so, going to the toilet just anywhere is perfectly okay because there's nobody around. And anyway, it'd been raining the day before, and it just Khaleesi was on the lead. Like sometimes I'd have her on the lead if I thought there was a possibility for her to get up to mischief. And we turned the corner, and there was this French lady with her pants down, doing her business. And sometimes in the older generations, you can pretty much guess that they're not going to speak English in France, in the south of France. That's not always the case, but it's quite often the case. And my French is appalling. And she was like, I can't speak French. And I was like, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. And as I tried to turn around, I slipped over in the puddle with the bike and Khaleesi. Not the puddle of wee, just a puddle because it had been raining. And she's like trying to pull her pants up, but she can't, and she's slipping around. So then we're both kind of like very close to each other because I'd just turned the corner and she was there. And she's trying to say to me in France, go away, go away. And I'm trying to tell her, I'm a woman. I didn't want to scare her because her back was to me. And I'm a woman and I can't because I've fallen over in a puddle. But because of the language communication, we just both were floundering around, her with her pants down, me with the bike on top of me, and Khaleesi most probably barking because she was excited. I just never get over that. And the fact that we can communicate, like I couldn't say to her, I'm trying to leave you alone, I'm trying to turn around. I just, it was so unfortunate that it happened just when there was a slippery puddle of mud. Yeah, poor lady. Maybe that was the first time she'd ever decided to do that. She was like really desperate, and she's one of those people that would never ever go to the toilet in the bushes. She decides to do it, and that would be the karma. And here I come. dear. Well, that story can get me hysterical. I have another story as well, similar to that. I can't talk about that one. Because it was exposed some of my friends. Okay, so that's a lie of non-duality. That your karma will go. You will still be caught in the middle of the French countryside if you decide to go for a toilet. You will still have karma. You see, to me, that's karma. That is perfect karma. There's nobody around for miles, but yet the two bodies collide when they're not meant to. So another lie of non-duality is, I should have made a list before I did this talk. That would have been the appropriate thing to do, to have a list of all the lies. Uh, Another lie would be that you can awaken yourself, that there is a path to awakening. Who? What? Where? So there is a path to awakening. I mean, how could we ever decipher that? There is what happens, and it's so unique to everybody. And then the idea that that is what awakens you is the belief that there is a you that's going to awaken. The who you are, the emptiness, the stillness, that's always been awake. You've always had consciousness, there's always been perception happening. But in perception, there's been identification with the body mind and with the idea of you. So you then get an idea that you are going to awaken, but your consciousness is already awake. It's already free, absolutely free. So what happens is at some point, the identification with the lie of the person crumbles away. And if there was one path to that, then everybody would do it. Oh, actually, I'm not sure about that. That might be a new lie that's made up of non-duality. But that would be a like, that everyone would be teaching that. Like, so there's a way in which you bake an apple cake, but there's variations. Everyone has an opinion on what's better or what's not and what's the best. Um, but there's a way to cook an apple cake. But if there was a way for you to awaken, everyone would be selling that. There are so many different teachers that claim all these different ways to awaken. And what we know from listening to different people speak is that people can awaken without doing any spiritual path. And then people can awaken doing immense spiritual path. We just can't understand that. And then you get other people that teach that it's karma, from previous lives. But then all of this is who would awaken. The only thing that we can say in the apparent timeline is there stops being identification with the person. So then there is a waking back to what you've always been. But there's always been awakeness, even when you're identified. So it's not consciousness that awakens. That's often what's said. Because how could consciousness awaken? It's here. It's perfect, brilliant silence in everything that you do. It's always here. It's the precursor to everything. So when you wake up in the morning, you don't switch consciousness on. You don't press a button and think, I need to switch my consciousness on. It's there before the character and the thoughts of you wake up. It's there in deep sleep. It's always there. And then in the morning, the character wakes up and says, I have woken up. It's just that the character has been switched back on. Your consciousness has been awake the whole time. Person is always claiming everything. Let's see if I can remember a quote that somebody said in my book club this morning. We were laughing though, that because I tried to do a quote with Roger and it all went a bit wrong. I always get it upside down, but let's see if I can do this one. It was so sweet. They said it was from Rupert Spira. No, I can't remember. Something like, world, you don't wake up in the world wakes up in you. Yeah, that's it. You don't wake up in the world wakes up in you. God damn, beautiful. Yes. No. Okay. What other lie? We'll do one more lie of non-duality. I thought of one. Another lie of non-duality. This one's very tricky because this one can really be a play on words. So it's very tricky. I mean, so some speakers imply that after awakening, nothing changes. This is true from one perspective, but it's untrue from another perspective. And I just get the sense that some people, not just speakers, but also people that come and I speak with about it, are in delusion. yes, nothing changes because it was always the case. It's only ever been a story of you suffering. Like the past, everything in the past is imagination. Like you imagine that you walked into this room, you sat down and you're listening to Lisa and you're understanding her. But that's a lie. That's like a better way of saying that is you are imagining that that's what's happening. There is imagination appearing that that's what happened previous to this. But that's not actually what happened to previous to this. What all we ever know is this moment. All we ever know is what we truly are, which is the emptiness, the stillness of this moment. Everything else is imagination. And we can't say whether it happened or didn't happen. We can just say the imagination. There was an imagination that I came and I sat down and I started watching Lisa on the internet. There's imagination that even eyes may be too far, like the body came, sat down, listened to Lisa on the internet. So yes, after awakening, nothing's changed because it's still the same stillness. However, I think that when I speak with some people, they they misinterpreted that. So they intellectually understand that and then think that that's awakening. Whereas actually, awakening is an energetic shift from being identified with a person to that identification breaking. And what's experiencing in this moment is who you truly are, which is nothing and everything, or beyond words, absolute mystery. There's no barrier between who you actually are and what's happening. And in that, a character appears. And if there is not a continuous mention of love in that, then it's most probably not the same thing. It's most probably an intellectual interpretation of it. So there's still identification with a person in time, but that person in time has intellectually understood and seen awakening. Because when there is this movement, there is a profound sense of love, that the source of everything is love. It's really not an intellectual thing. And that's how you can tell the difference, is this sense of love. So for yourself, and when other people speak about it, whether they refer to it again and again as love, that's a little bit tricky because sometimes people don't want to refer to it as love because it's so emotive love, but it really is love. It's like you come back to this emptiness of what you are, and then there is this innate love for everything. Who you are is love. Love equals life. Life equals love. And that love is dependent on emptiness, on nothing, on attaching to nothing. So it can't be one thing. It has to be all things. So that's a lie of non-duality, that it's somehow intellectually grasped. Like I know there's organizations out there which say you're enlightened from seeing no self. You know, it's like a seeing, a recognition of no self, but that's not it. That's an awakening for sure. But what I'm talking about, and maybe other teachers go further than what I do, I can't ever tell, but from where I speak, is it's really a sinking back into absolute love, like a non-division between everything. That doesn't mean that Lisa, the character, can't get pissed with things. She can get pissed off, especially when the hormones get changed. Not because I turns transgender, but I mean like PMS. PMS. The world can become a lot harder and naughtier when PMS comes. Yeah. Or fear. Fear, uh, the character can experience fear. It's not the absence of those things. It's the one that owned those things collapsing, the one that owned them and then seeks to be something by owning them. So seeks to be something by not experiencing fear, seeks to be something by being victim to fear, seeks to be something by being ashamed of being angry, seeks to be something by being the most angry person, whatever. So it's what collapses. And then the anger comes from love. I know that sounds crazy. When Roger said this to me, I got very angry with him. You know, when he was teaching me and I was his student, I got very angry with him. I was like, no, enlightened people don't get angry. And then I got incredibly angry, actually. And we were walking along in the forest. There in Australia, we called it the bush. That to some people can be confusing, thinking that we're just in one singular bush. We're walking in a bush. Um, we were walking in the bush, and and uh, and I was getting so angry with him that he was insisting that this can be anger too. Anger can appear from love. I was like, man, I got so angry. And then suddenly I had an awakening experience and I experienced me vanished. And then I experienced anger coming from absolute love. And then I think I had to roll around the floor laughing hysterically. And Roger, being very serious, would just be like, stand there very seriously 15, 20, 30 minutes for me to stop rolling around laughing. And then he would continue with his discourse. Me and Roger were such a weird couple. I bet people used to look at us and be like, what? I'm so full of color. And he's so, and I'm so, I don't know. Sometimes I used to think of myself as a monkey, like jumping around here and there. And Roger's very earthy and like a buffalo. Boom, boom. And he would carry on very calmly and patiently and wait for me, which often used to happen. I would have some sort of shift and then I would find it hysterically funny, which also happens actually when I take hallucinogenics. I often get hysterical and laugh a lot. The buffalo on the monkey. He was the buffalo and I was the monkey riding on his back, picking my nose, eating my bananas. I do love the banana, I have to say. One of my favorite fruits, the banana. Oh yes, and I'm born in the year of the monkey, and he's born in the year of the buffalo. We used to say that. I forgot. It was a long time ago we were together. Oh yeah, I forgot that. And I remember when I found out who was the buffalo, if that's correct, if you can be a buffalo. I can't remember what he was in buffalo. When I found out, I just found that so funny. I had to roll around laughing. If you watch Roger, you will understand the humor in this. Roger will not understand that. I'm sorry, Roger, that I always make fun of everything. If you ever watch, I don't think he would ever watch, but oh, that tickled me. Oh, dear. Yeah, if you don't know who I'm talking about, it's Roger Castillo. So he was my teacher and my partner for, and then after we broke up, I then had this eruptive, explosive awakening. Okay, so I think that's enough lies now. I've really gobbled on for nearly an hour, which is really quite amazing because it would be giving the wrong impression that I'm a chatty person. I'm actually spend most of my days not talking that much, and then I come on here and it's like all safe for that. I present myself and then I suddenly woo! So we can now go to questions.